This conference will now be recorded.
I think it's 20.
It is now, yeah. His notice said.
So we need to change that number to 20.
The notice is not before.
Well, I'm gonna read the notice and then we can amend it.
Thank you.
Pursuant to RSA 3195B3A, the Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing to accept private donations totaling $14,000 to be used toward road improvements deemed necessary to bring Willen Road up to Class 5 specifications per March 11th, 2020 town meeting vote. The hearing will take place on Monday, August 10th, 2020 at 9 a.m. at the Townhouse, 247 Middle Road Center, Tuftonboro, New Hampshire. Sir.
I'd like to amend the notice to read $20,000.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
With that, any comments from the selectmen? Then I'll go to the public.
I'd just like to acknowledge and express our gratitude to those individuals that stepped up with money to help with this work. The effect is it will reduce the amount of money that all of the people on the road are going to have to pay as part of their betterment assessment. So I think it's a great way to kick off getting this thing to where it can be properly maintained.
Okay. Any members of the public like to speak? Just give your name, come up to the mic, and just give your name to the secretary, please.
Laurel Podson.
Don't be nervous. Welcome.
Thank you. And yes, also thank you to the members of our community that was donating the money to help out the town and the people on this road. And I have written a couple emails, and I also just want to express my gratitude to all of you for your hard work on this project. And I just want to emphasize the environmental impacts of this project, or potential impacts. I don't know the changes that are going to be made, which is mostly why I'm here, is if there's any discussion, just to hear what they are and hear the changes to the road. And I just hope that the town can take into the consideration of the environmental impacts that the road has on all of the land, not just my own, the waterways below the road, because it's extreme, and I see it every spring, and I know that farther down the road they see it. So I just hope that those can be taken into consideration as this proceeds.
I'd like to respond to that. I work with you on the Conservation Commission, and thank you for your efforts. I spoke to Jim privately, although it wasn't discussed by us in the public session. There's experience on Lang Pond Road. If you come down the hill, there's a rain garden, and Mirror Lake Drive, they've put them in. Mm-hmm. And if you come down from Louis Museum down the hill, and there's water, there's a rain garden with a little parking area there. And if you notice, that's quite a serious wetland out there. Yeah. And it is really mitigated. It was kind of an experiment, but it has worked. I know the former owners were very pleased with that there. So if that calms you a little bit, I know that it's on Jim's radar.
Great, that's all I asked.
Yeah,
thank you.
And I guess if I can add, as we do this work, I see kind of two things that are going on. One is there currently are some spots along there where there's a lot of wash coming out on the road and washing it away every year, which we want to reduce, eliminate if we can. So some of the places where water is dumping into the road instead of into the ditches along the side, we need to get that redirected. And the other thing, of course, is there are some spots that just because of the physical dimension and the topography need a little bit bit of work so that they can actually get it properly plowed. But certainly not my vision. I don't think this board's intent that we're going to turn this thing into a much wider residential street, if you will. Just we're going to do those things that we need to so that that proper maintenance, particularly winter maintenance, can be done on it. And I know we talked about some large trees and the possibility that maybe they needed to come out. You expressed some concern about one particular tree. There's more than one way to address some of the tightness issues, and I know as Jim looks at it, he's not going to. I don't think he's going to look with blinders on. He'll look at options that provide the best overall result, so we minimize any adverse impacts, and at the same time correct some of the current deficiencies that end up with a lot of material washing downstream.
That's great, thank you. And also thank you to Jim, who's not here, but because I know he's kept in contact too over the past few months, which has been helpful. So
Yeah, I think my feeling is he needs to just maintain the road for this winter. Figure out what he needs. I know we sort of jumped at a number early on that I don't think is based in reality to a certain degree. I mean, we're not making Ledge Hill Road out of it. We're just making it better than Phineas Graves Road or as good as Lang Pond Road. It may be that someday in the future we need to throw some paving at that hill, but that's a ways in advance. But that would just help Laurel's issues out. If all you're getting is water, that's great. You know, it might be flooding. We can address that, but when you get into erosion of the road into wetlands, that's when it becomes a real issue.
yeah, right. It's the erosion and it's the silt and the
Right.
that we get the loading of sand and silt.
And Alan had mentioned selling a part of his piece and that there would be more housing in there. So we have to kind of keep an eye on how many houses are out there, how many people are using the road.
Yep.
What sort of needs that creates.
We kind of have an expert here because Chip and his family have been in the road building for eons, so he's a veteran of sorts, very knowledgeable.
That's helpful. Thank you all for listening.
Yeah, thanks for your
Laura.
help. There's more young people on these boards. We're getting old.
Don't yell at heart.
Would you like to speak? Just step up and give your name to Karen. Welcome.
Yeah, Brian McPhee. I actually live down at the other end of Willen Road, it's known as Federal Corner Road. And I guess I was debating whether or not to comment or not, but so I guess pertaining to the end that you're discussing here, a question that I have is when they do the improvement, will there be an effort to kind of I guess crown the road off so that because I've noticed a lot of dirt roads or some dirt roads in the area, certainly in South Borough, really have a nice crown on them, and it enables the water to shut off into the ditches pretty efficiently. Obviously, any dirt road needs annual upkeep. But I have noticed in specifically on my road often, while it does get York raked or graded periodically, it doesn't always get crowned off, so we get a lot of runoff right down the middle of the road. So is that a discussion, or is that anything you guys are aware of as leadership in the town? With the has that been discussed with the road agent?
Have you driven out over this other portion of the land?
The far end?
Yeah.
I have I have occasionally I'll take the back way to go down to the transfer station.
Chipper's done a pretty good job of shaping the road up. I mean, I don't know that it's going to need a whole lot more material, but it's parts of it that will.
I can address that issue, all our dirt roads. I have, on multiple occasions, spoken to Jim Beam. The recent course I took is that when you do York rake or grade a dirt road, you don't leave it like this. You leave it like this. I'm exaggerating. It's called tenting. The reason for that is if you tent it, the tire tracks, the cars go this way or straddle. When you round it off like he does Lang Pond Road, it gets double the wear in the center because that's the driver's side like this. And he said that he's going to try next year to do it that way.
Fantastic, okay.
And, you know, he's been reasonable.
And what?
He's been reasonable on that issue.
Sure, okay. You know, I've been in my location for coming up on 4 years, and, you know, we have a kind of a challenging driveway, which I've spent a lot of time and money, you know, maintaining, and do so myself. And below my driveway, there's actually berms on both sides of the road, and the low point is the road, so there's no way for water to shed.
I know there's some challenges in front of your house. The banks come down.
Right.
But we talked about that last year.
And one of the items on the list this year is, some drainage improvements in there. I think we were talking about another catch basin and some material and additional ditching.
I don't know where that stands.
I think it's not at the top of the list, because getting the paved road projects done.
Right.
But as we approach the fall, that becomes something that needs to
I know
have attention.
that Jim has spent over $20,000 this month on Phineas Gray's Road. Evidently, he put that at the top of his list.
That wasn't even on the list last year. Just saying.
Yes, sir.
No, it wasn't part of that article on the warrant, right? Yeah.
But we hit.
Oh, I was just gonna ask about we talked about repaving and so forth from the corner of Brown Road and Federal Corner Road to Burley Road. What's the time frame for that being repaved?
That's a good question.
I mean, that was nearly impassable last year in the wintertime. And it's still covered with gravel and the attempted fix.
Lakes Region Planning did a study. However, in fairness to them, Dame Road, because of a number of things, needed absolute immediate care.
Okay.
And that was bumped up by the road agent with our permission.
So in my memory, the section you're talking about was not real far down the list in terms of when it was going to get some attention, but it wasn't this year or next year. So it wasn't 10 years out, but it was. Okay.
Are there other areas that could be? I mean, I'm looking globally at the budget. Are there other things that could be cut to, to apply some funds to that at some point?
Well, what we're hoping to do is increase our revenue. So we're talking about renting a couple of cell phone tower sites, which would significantly change our ability to pay.
Yeah.
But that's an ongoing process that probably will be not till next year. But I think every year I've been here on the board, there's talk of increasing the paving budget. We're always battling the other expenses that are driven from outside the town.
And the last several years, we have increased it.
Yes, we have.
But we haven't increased it significantly. We've increased it a modest amount each year.
In the paving program that Lakes Region did for us, the study, there's actually an escalation of the paving budget annually. And we've been trying to meet that. It's not an instantaneous increase, but it's a gradual increase over time. And plus, everything's balanced on traffic. There's a lot less traffic on Muir Road, for instance, than there is on Dame Road.
Understood.
So.
But, I mean, Dame Road at one level or another, I think, was passable with most normal vehicles.
The most recent section, which was 4 feet of clay, probably would have had, in my opinion, would have been blocked off if we hadn't,
Stepped in.
stepped up.
Yeah,
And we thought about it, so.
yeah, I hadn't been down it
Maybe
super
there's a
recently.
short-term fix that we can talk to Jim about.
Yep.
Sure.
And the issue was the heaving. I mean, we were, approaching, probably exceeding 12 inches of heaves at times, where, as I said, I mean, it was difficult to travel at 5 miles an hour in just a regular automobile down that road.
Right. So that's more than just paving.
Right.
No, it needs a rip up, a re-engineering, and then paving on top of it. So, just wanted to make sure while we were talking about that, I guess,
Thank you for the
piece of
reminder.
real estate,
Thank you
that's,
for the reminder.
there's a significant need there, so.
Yeah. Don't mind.
Anything to do with this public hearing notice? Anyone on the line like to speak?
Anyone? Bueller?
Matt, do you wanna unmute your microphone so you can state that?
Hi,
Go ahead, sir.
I put something in the chat just relative to the conversation that was going on here. And I know it's not the Willand Road section, but I've been traveling this road for 30 years now on a regular basis, and I found it to be a far better road when it was a gravel road than since it's been paved.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else like to
We
speak on
talked about that section of Federal Corner that's breaking up. And before it was paved, it was,
Gravel.
gravel and it was was easier to travel. So, we know that just laying hot top down on top of what's there without properly building it is not gonna take care of problems, it'll cause problems, and I think that's what we've seen.
Yeah, the heath that this fellow's talking about, you shouldn't have paved it anyway, because you're paving on top of a
Right.
gravel.
Well, sometimes what happens is it doesn't heave as much until you get pavement on top and there's no place for it to escape, and then it's bad, yeah.
Anyone else on the line?
Joe is there, but he didn't have a comment.
Okay. Anything else? I'd like to entertain a motion to.
You gotta close the hearing?
Yes.
Okay. I'll move to accept the donation.
A second?
Okay, I need to close the hearing first,
Yep.
then we need to take.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
so that's a combination motion, right?
Well, no, I'll move that we close the hearing.
Okay,
I'll second.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Now,
I'll move that we accept the donations.
I'll second with comment.
any comments?
Okay, I just want to make sure, and I talked to Diane about it, that this goes into a separate non-lapsing capital account as opposed to just going into the general ledger. Because we need to keep, well, obviously, we don't need to spend the money on something else, but we need to keep track of how we're spending the money as well.
Yes.
And if we're gonna do a betterment, which I think is another discussion, that needs to coincide with this money as well. And I think if it goes into the road agent's budget, as you mentioned before the meeting, I mean, he's upside down on a couple of accounts on his budget. I don't need to get lost in road agent land, so.
Correct. I have a question, go ahead.
No, I'm fine.
Well, I think by law, it can't go into one of our regular accounts because it's a private donation, but the benefit to putting it in a separate non-lapsing account is then there isn't any time pressure on, then we don't have to spend it before the end of the year. It's not, okay, well, let's hurry up and spend this piece and then we'll figure out where we go from there. It just becomes part of the total.
Yeah, because I honestly don't think he's gonna come up with a reasonable plan of attack until he's serviced that road for, you know, the better part of this fall.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, Karen, do you have a contact at the municipal association? Because my question is, can we not just say thank you to these people, but can we send them a letter accepting their donation and they can claim it as a tax deduction?
Yeah, you don't need to
Yeah, they will.
immunity for that. It's,
It's my way of saying thank you to them for stepping
right,
up.
the
What are your thoughts?
yeah, no, that's fine, and it is because it's it is tax deductible.
Yeah, no,
Under
then
the
you
IRS code.
get a copy of the minutes,
Yeah,
So that should be all set then.
which would be, yeah. I don't know. You can create a letter to Mr. Chairman.
Are we ready to vote?
Think
Yeah.
so?
All those in favor say aye.
aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, did you have letters written but not to reach out to municipal association?
I don't think we need to reach out to,
No,
and it's a standard,
if the chairman wants to create a letter of thanks, that's wonderful. But I don't think that's gonna be what they need if they wanna claim it as a tax deduction.
You just want to make it easy and legal for them.
Yeah,
Right.
knowing the parties, I'm sure they're right on top of this issue.
The next item on business is cable TV franchise information session. The town of Tuftonboro has a public hearing to ascertain the future cable TV needs related to needs and interests of the town. I'd like to read the following statement. This public hearing is part of the work of the Board of Selectmen conducting on renewal of cable TV franchise agreement between the town and Charter Communications, locally known as Spectrum. The board is soliciting information from residents on what they would like to see going forward in the way of cable TV services from Charter. It is important to note that this hearing only pertains to the cable TV portion of Charter's service. Although many residents also purchase telephone and internet services from Charter. The Board of Selectmen only has authority to negotiate with Charter regarding the cable TV portion of those services. The board also does not have control over either the prices Charter charges in Tuftonboro, some of which are regulated by the Federal Communications Commission, the basic tier charges and equipment charges, or the channel selection, or the form in which channels are offered in tiers or bundles. The board is interested to know if residents who are not currently receiving Charter services have requested service and been denied. In those situations, we would need to know how many homes are located on the road not served, measuring from the point at which cable TV service ends to see if Charter must provide such services according to the terms of its current franchise agreement. Are there members of the public who want to speak on this issue? Come on up again, make sure she has your name.
Yeah, Brian McPhee. So, and I guess it's kind of it's a code-driven service, obviously, internet's the big thing. I know you guys had a meeting with Consolidated back in the spring. And they're not a television provider, however, Spectrum is. And wherever Spectrum provides television, they'll obviously provide internet and phone at the same place. So recently I was discussing, actually, it was a big kind of a socially distanced neighborhood meeting with Consolidated with one of their business reps back in May that, including representatives from the nonprofit camp up the road, and off of Burley Road, is folks from the Burley Road as well. And just internet alone, that we were all quoted $210 a month for them to, and they would need a certain number of people to subscribe. So obviously at that point I went and talked to Spectrum again. I talked to them years ago, and to get television service, which would give me the option of internet as well. They quoted me $6,200. To answer your question, it was 1,700 feet from their current service location to my house. I know they would go right past at least two other folks that, could easily be, if they cut a tap in, they could, supply at least two other places without running another, piece of hard line down Burley Road, which I think it'd be probably additional two more customers down there. I don't know that distance. So they said the total bill cost was in excess of $9,000 to run the 1,700 feet. They said they throw in 3,000, and they said, my bill would be 6,200 for them to bring cable television to my house. I guess my concern is that my house wasn't recently built, half-mile driveway in the middle of nowhere. I understand that, with new construction, there are certain costs, I guess, associated with that. My house has been in existence for approximately 25 years, and I guess the question I have for the town or Consolidated, not Consolidated, but Spectrum is, over time, what's been done to expand coverage to places that are a little more outlying. And I understand they can't do it all instantly, hence it wasn't put in back when this house was built. But 25 years later, I guess I would kind of expect to have their network have been expanded, since they've been doing business and collecting money from the taxpayers of this town for, decades now. So is there any,
Well, they're not, there's nothing in the agreement that requires them to expand at any rate.
So
they're at 7 miles or 7 houses per mile or whatever their formula is. It's one of the primary drivers behind the broadband effort that's going on currently with the Carroll County Broadband and also the New Hampshire Electric Cooperative, because the premise in both of those efforts is that it's 100% connection. So everybody gets connected regardless of how far away you are from the last guy that got connected. And I think the rates they're talking are somewhere in the $80 to $110 a month range. So I think it's really going to put some pressure on Charter to do something to retain their ownership. I haven't been, and I know Joe Kowalski's listening in on us, but he and I both have been in the Selectmen arena here since the early 2000s. And neither one of us are happy with the agreement that was made, and given the current FCC rules, there's not a hell of a lot we can do about it.
pertaining to internet.
We don't have any.
All we have, the franchise agreement just has to do with the television, the cable TV portion of service. So,
and when does it expire? In other words, when can it be rewritten?
23.
It's 2 years, I think, or so, but.
Can we commit to really sharpening pencils and making some adjustments, I guess, before we, give them a carte blanche check?
Well, the other part.
So the way this whole thing works is that the town has authority from the FCC, and it comes out of some law back in the 1970s, is what I remember hearing, and so that specifies the relationship and the ability of a town to franchise. All this other stuff that's been added since the television over cable is outside of
the scope
that legislative authority. So our ability to negotiate changes in the franchise agreement are very limited. And the kinds of things that everybody is interested in, like better internet. TV is less of a thing than it used to be because people are using
satellite
stuff on the computer. Okay, but all of that sort of stuff is totally outside the arena that we're working in. What I remember from the last time the town did renewed the franchise agreement, and I wasn't on the board then, but just from being aware of what was going on, there was a lot of conversation about how do we get additional channels, you know.
Right.
We don't have, we have no ability to influence that, other than making noise. And it's a business decision of the provider. It's not something that we can require.
Yeah, and it's complicated. I mean, generally in a negotiation situation like this where we're paying someone to do something, we would have the alternative of saying, fine, we don't like the deal you're giving, get out of here.
Yep.
Find somebody else. We can't even do that. We have no authority to discontinue the franchise. So we're kind of stuck, and they know we're kind of stuck. What we can do, and I'll get back to the broadband thing again, we can bring in another service that would make you, if you were a cable subscriber, consider canceling. And if enough people cancel, then it's just, wires on them.
Right. And I think in a perfect scenario, especially when it comes to internet, you would have at least 2 or 3 subscribers to pick from on the pole. Okay, in a perfect scenario. So whether consolidated fiber plus Spectrum copper, and I don't know what else. I guess you could do consolidated DSL like I have, which is miserable now. And then with cable, you've got 2 dish suppliers, and then you've got cable television. So I guess you kind of have 3 at this point now anyway. I guess I'm just wondering if there's room for some modifications, as this contract or franchise agreement is being considered. Is there room to apply some pressure to do a better job at serving more of the town, because there's a lot of people that are just left out, and if they had the option of Spectrum cable television by default, they would also have the option of a fairly solid internet service as well, and that's in this day and age is to be without is honestly it's really equivalent to being without a passable road. I mean, internet is you guys know this. I mean, internet is it's crucial to business and
it's vital in the education process.
Well,
as
absolutely.
well. Yep.
So.
Well, I would just offer. You said your house is 25 years old. I live in a neighborhood that's been around since the 1970s. My house is 30 years old. Okay, and my neighborhood is not cabled. When I moved in 13 years ago and reached out to, I forget who had the franchise and, previous owner of this system, they said, we'll be down your street in about 6 months. Never happened. Now, we don't have a huge number of houses. I think we've got 8 houses on the street. It's not a real long street, but it appears to me that the only expansion that they do is at this point in terms of their ability to reach houses is when somebody else pays for it. So if you put in a new development and you cable it, you pay to put the cable in, that's fine. If you're in an existing neighborhood, you got to pony up the money to do it. And I'm not sure. I'm right with you in terms of how do we get to more people. I don't know what what approach could be effective. It's possible that we could raise the franchise fee, and we don't have to go to anybody for that and use that money toward it. But the franchise fee is paid by all the existing customers. Okay, so all we're doing is we're taking money from the people that are existing customers that they pay on their bill every month that comes to the town, taking that money and using it to expand it. It's an approach. I'm not suggesting that it's.
Well, we haven't been very lucky with this particular situation in a private, for-profit generated business when it comes to significant need. And I think the pandemic is certainly going to illustrate to everybody, if it continues, they shut down the schools again. I mean, at some point in time, this has to become a critical need. And it also directly affects the amount of employment we have in the state. I mean, if people are going to be able to work at home, they're only going to be able to do that with some sort of high-speed internet connection. So there are any number of drivers, but if the only thing driving Spectrum is the bottom line, and the addition of his hookup to their stock portfolio exceeds the $6,700 that they're going to charge him.
Right.
So the value per hookup that they're claiming for their stock valuation is a benefit they receive. You receive no value from that at all. Right. It needs a little adjusting, and I think.
Well, and
but
you know,
most
with
of it's
respect
legislative, we can't really do anything.
Right. With respect to the broadband, as we're looking at bringing it in, we're looking at a different rollout model there. We're looking at having it available to all residences, okay? So you got a big chunk of money up front that has to be invested. But it's spread across everybody, rather than when you say, all right, where are the high density places, we'll get those because that's where the revenue comes in.
And it's a co-op model too. It's not profit generated, it's making sure it breaks even or makes a little bit, but
So
it's a different
that's
business model.
The way the existing cable was rolled out in this community, and I'm sure many others in the country, is what makes it more difficult to do the expansion of these areas where, and I mean, we're a rural town. We don't have a high number of residences per line mile for this stuff, and so it's a heavy lift to get there to begin with, and particularly when you have an existing business that is looking at changes to technology that are affecting their ability to generate the revenue they need to keep running as well. So it's there aren't easy answers. I think we have some good experience on our side in working through this process.
And the franchise agreement's public information, so if you wanted to review it, just get someone at the town office to call them. It might take a day to get a copy out, but you can pick one up and take a look. If we're missing something, by all means, let us know. We're only amateurs elected by the people.
Can I make a request? We're going to hold this process open until September 11th. If you'd like to reduce some of the things to writing, just submit them so they're in the files and to share your information. I think it would help. Great. Anybody else from the public like to speak? Anyone on the line that would need to speak?
Good morning. Hello, how are you?
Hi, Joan.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Let me start at the top. I had given Lloyd an old contract with corrections made that were never approved by the powers to be right now. 2, have any of all other than Lloyd, have Bill or Chip read the contract?
How recently?
Okay.
That was within the last couple of months, right, Karen?
So those red
And
lines.
and we passed that along to council, and they're working with that along with the other information they have.
Well, I think we ought to be having an active discussion amongst ourselves before we give it to anybody else. I'm sitting here screaming at the computer because some of those things that you said, you are misinformed. Now, we have the right and we can change all these things in the contract, okay, to our benefit if we are going to grant a franchise fee to Spectrum or whomever, okay? And as far as this gentleman here, how much money they want to charge him, Spectrum or / Time Warner won't even let you run your own cable from your drop point out to the box, even though it's on your land. We went through a similar thing with our own town, with the transfer station and how much money they wanted to charge us. We couldn't hire anybody else because if we did, they would not hook up to that cable. Now, before I forget, I'm writing notes like crazy. Nobody in this town wants to pay any more money to Spectrum than we already are. Chip mentioned there's a clause in there we have the option to raise it to 5%. I'm not interested in raising it to 5%. So that said, anybody want to come back at me and tell me where I'm wrong? No?
Well, Joe, it was me that raised the issue of the franchise agreement. I was not suggesting that we do it. I was suggesting that might be one way that the network could be expanded. But it's on the backs of the existing subscribers, and I don't recommend that would be something we pursue.
Do you agree that we have the sole right to be involved with this contract and the words that are written in it that would benefit us? Example being the transfer station should have been negotiated, even though the money came out of our pocket. That wire should have been put in there to give them the access. More recently, you are sitting right now, we are paying for internet service as one of the municipal buildings that we use and operate. It seems to me, just my opinion, that all the municipal buildings that we own and operate out of should be free. That's just one little thing. Back to the 15 houses in a 1 mile area, only then will they run cable. That little nomenclature has to be either cleared or corrected, okay? I can sit down when I get back, one-on-one, I don't care. Lloyd already knows all this stuff, that I would go over each and every line. These are things that bother me. Now, that said, I've been doing this for 15 years, and I just don't like some of the large companies coming in and just, well, here, take it or leave it. You know, I think I'm sitting here and I'm saying, if we put as much effort into our cable contract as we do to our health insurance, life would probably be great and they would be put on notice. So.
Well, it would be, I mean, that's a very poor example, because in the health insurance, which I happen to handle for the budget committee, we have 5 or 6 different options and with companies, and with each company, there are probably 4 options. With the cable franchise agreement, we don't have any options at all. And the thing that frustrates me, Joe, is that we don't have the leverage to say no. So that's why, and when you say we need to be parties to all the language in the franchise agreement, a significant amount of the language in the franchise agreement is statutory. You know, they've all lobbied in Washington to get all of this stuff put in there. We don't have any control over that, and there's no way that we can remove it without litigation, and I think we'd lose at litigation.
I don't understand, Chip, okay, that we have no, what you just said as far as we have no input, okay? It's just, I don't understand, okay? when we hire someone to do a contract and to do some work in the town, okay, we negotiate with them, okay? But now we're gonna bring in the cable TV system, okay? And they're coming in. I understand some of it you said was statutory, but there's a lot of other stuff that we can negotiate, okay? And I don't like, I know who you're dealing with. You're dealing with the lawyers and they have a lot of experience and everything else. But and that's all fine and well as far as the legalese is concerned. Okay, I'm more concerned about us putting input into the system, say, well, if you want to come into the town, I want this, or I want this corrected, or I need this, okay? I've read the contract so many times, I'm blurry-eyed. And again, I've been involved and a lot of other people have been involved over the last several years, sitting down, putting out questionnaires to the people, so on and so forth. And it fell on deaf ears of all the work that we have done. Now, you people were supposed to put out some type of questionnaire recently. I don't know what happened to that idea. Maybe that fell on the wayside. I have no idea. All I'm saying, okay, and I'm just one person, and I have a more or less an inside look, and I'm expressing my opinion this morning, being a public hearing. Hopefully somebody else is listening or watching. All right.
If
Go
I
ahead.
may jump in
Sure.
here, Joe, I agree completely with you when you talk about if we're negotiating with somebody for a contract to provide something. But as I understand it with respect to this, if we don't have an active franchise agreement with the cable provider, it doesn't change anything for them. They can still run their cable, they can still run the service, sell to the customers they have on cable in town, and go forward. So our refusing to renew the franchise agreement doesn't change their business. So
What about changing the language? Some of the language of taking stuff out or putting stuff back in? We don't have no input on that.
well, we do have input, and we're working in that process.
Okay, but you are not. You're giving it to the lawyer, okay? You're not sitting down and going through the pages, are you?
So what we're doing is we're dealing with somebody that deals with this day in and day out on behalf of municipalities, that knows a hell of a lot more about it than we do.
Okay,
Thank you, Joe. Anybody else on the line?
I wasn't done yet.
Okay.
All right, in reference to Chip, and he's been involved with that broadband initiative, okay? And I don't know where that's going. I haven't been around to attend any of the meetings and stuff. I was just wondering, more and more people are starting to work from home and they need the internet service, which is another, it just ties in with the TV, but I mean, you need a cable, it comes over it and it comes to your house. So I just wanted to throw that out there as far as that will be an important issue in the future if people can't get online and do the job or do the work. All right, thank you very much for listening.
Hey, Joe, be safe, okay?
Thank you. We'll see you in a while.
Thank you for your efforts.
Look forward to it.
You had your hand raised.
I was just gonna add that our franchise agreement specific for cable TV does not involve internet. And
Right.
and hence that's why the transfer station, it wasn't a negotiating factor because we want internet and the rest evolved because it was cheaper actually, I believe.
If I understand correctly, Clay, it was your perseverance that you and Karen made 50 attempts to deal with Time Warner. Right. And then you and I sat down with the #1 guy with Charter. He was brand new here. I kind of wanted to make a positive statement. If I remember correctly, he reduced the installation fee by 10 grand. That was the first comment, correct? And then also, you you negotiated a 3-year contract for internet that you need to take pictures of your bales and send them out, and they have to be crisp and legible. And you bundled 3 services, correct? What were they?
Phone, video, and internet.
Yeah, and if I understand correctly,
Same price that we were doing.
yes, you had Fairpoint before that was intermittent. You couldn't even get 911 when there was a fire next door, right?
Correct.
And you actually got all 3 bundled services for pennies less than what we were just paying for Fairpoint.
Right.
So Charter hasn't been an enemy to at least your operation.
Well, yeah, it depends on what number you first start out with.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, when you were mentioning 5,700, you know, they were, like, 11,500 or something like that. And it ended up being in the $5,000 to $6,000 range. And that was negotiated with a 3-year contract. They initially started out in that 3-year contract with a lot more per month. Like you were saying, 200, and we got that down to what the normal phone rate per month would be.
Thank you. Anything else from the public in this hearing?
If I may just make one
Go ahead, sir.
last comment.
Yep.
With respect to this public input, right? We're starting a 30-day period to collect input. We've had some today. The input is for the cable TV franchise. We've done a lot of talking about internet, and it's very important to all of us. It's outside the franchise, and so comments that we have coming in that will be helpful to us with respect to moving forward toward renewing this contract specifically need to be relative to cable TV service and not to the other stuff that we all want and need. And regardless of what's more important or not, it's a cable TV franchise agreement, and that's where the input needs to be helpful to the conversation. It's very difficult to because everything sort of technology all runs together anymore, but it's the actual TV piece that's subject to the agreement.
Go ahead, sir.
I would recommend, as a comment from a citizen on cable TV, that the best area to negotiate in that franchise agreement would be the density level.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and if you want our support and our service, you need to reduce the density requirement level. And that, I think, would be the best area to increase the number of people that get service at that amount.
Well, and anecdotally,
May or may not work.
anecdotally, my memory says that some areas that meet their minimum density threshold still aren't getting the service.
Correct. That's where they violate the franchise agreement.
Right.
Okay. What I'm going to do is thank you for all who came and spoke via telephone. We will hold the record open until September 11th to see if other residents who could not attend in person have information to supply to us. This hearing is now closed. Take a deep breath. Next, public input. Anyone from the public that would like to speak? Anyone on the line to speak publicly? Okay. Excuse me. Next item of business is approval of minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
First set of minutes is Monday, August 3rd, 9 a.m.
Well, I don't have any changes.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
I have a correction.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Okay.
Would you please go to page 2? Selectmen's update. After the first sentence, please add, quote, and I'll give you a copy of this. give you a copy of it. Both abutters stated that they support our police department and they welcome a police department to the neighborhood. They feel safer with a police station next to them. Does your motion still stand? Your motion still stand?
Yeah, I made the motion.
And was it
I'll
seconded?
second, yep.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 3-0. Next set of minutes are for August 6th, Selectmen's minutes at 2:30 PM, Town Office. I have nothing to add.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes 3-0.
Not, this is regular minutes, am I right?
Yep.
Correct.
Yep.
Next are the non-public meeting that we went into at 2:27 PM. I have nothing to add.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I don't know that we need to seal it, but if you want to let it remain sealed until after this.
Till the after the transition, yeah. Yep.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next is appointment, building updates with Jack Parsons. Thank you for waiting, sir. How are you?
I'm great, so. I'll explain that in a second. So we have 74 building permits up to date, 11 new homes, done 263 inspections. The work being done on the town offices, electrical work, painting, all that stuff they're still in contact with me. They're saying that they're gonna get it done, so hopefully the electrical part will be done this week. Painting and the windows, just all backed up, so.
Yeah. What's the electrical stuff with the?
The emergency light in the stairway, we're gonna put a receptacle in here.
Yep.
And then, I need new photo cell and the lights on the outside. They don't shut off as quickly as they should when it gets bright outside. And on that there in front of you, in our zoning, there is an ordinance for temporary use. It's approved by myself and the Board of Selectmen. So at the Pier 19 store, they've requested to put a tent out in the parking lot for a period of a week during Bike Week for a vendor
When
to.
when they got their approval,
Right.
I know originally when the place was put up, there was parking requirements.
Correct.
They changed or argued about the number of parking spots, I know with the condominium people.
Right.
How is that tent gonna affect their compliance?
Nothing, because it's not gonna go in a parking area. It's gonna go in a spot where there's no parking spots.
Looks like it was going on the pavement.
It is, but in the area it's going, there is actually no parking spots there. It's gonna be in the corner by the entrance on the pavement, but in that particular area, there is no parking spots on the pavement.
It doesn't affect their number of parking places that they were required,
Required for the original store, no, it does not, no.
or required for the current store.
Correct.
Because I know they had a discussion.
No, they're all set with the current store. They have enough parking spots, yeah. So like I say, in the use, it's, in the ordinance, I put a copy there. It's no more than 500 square feet, and it's of a temporary use, so when they're requesting for a week.
I know, the Federation's been putting tents up every year for
Right.
30, 40 years.
What's your recommendation?
I mean, one of the vendors, it's because of Bike Week, and in Bike Week in Laconia, they're having vendors, but only nonprofits. Kiwanis, Lions Club, that type of thing, a couple churches, they're allowed to put up a vending stand when
Hopefully,
no
our
one else
customer
is.
vendors are for profit.
So,
Right.
so that's what this use is for, and like I say, on the plan there, it shows where they wanna put it, and they approached me, and I dug into the ordinance, and I found a temporary use, so.
Are we gonna have Father's Day again as well? 'Cause that's when Bike Week is.
I guess so, yeah, I'm gonna get more presents, Chip.
Yep.
Hey,
Do you want to take
So,
action today?
yes, I move that we approve the temporary, use for,
And I
this
just,
tent.
I made that application up this morning based on some other stuff we had, we had nothing, cause no one's ever approached to do it.
so.
I'll second that.
Just a good way to have a piece of paper in the file that shows that.
Correct.
Any further discussion?
I guess the only, I mean, this is kind of open-ended. Jack's made an agreement or talked to the folks at the store about what the timelines are concerned. But do we want to be informed when Jack has one of these in the future?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, in the ordinance, it says approved by myself and the selectmen, so you
But I'm
notify.
So, which is good.
Right.
That way, somebody can't strong arm you into whatever. You gotta get us on board too, which is,
Right.
I don't think we're tough. I think we're.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 3-0. Anything else? I had a couple questions.
Sure.
How are we coming on the cleanups and the legal issues?
The one on Dame Road
And
is,
with that, I understand that, we kind of have to hold off for court because it's not a priority with the court.
correct, so.
What are your thoughts?
One on Dame Road is pretty much set now. They're in compliance at the moment. Whether it stays that way, I don't know.
Bill Holmes?
I've been up to Bill Holmes, and there's actually a couple vehicles behind the building that I saw. I went up there last week, so he'll be getting a phone call from me, so. What else we got? Straws. So the issue with straws is, I was up the other day, but there was no vehicles in the driveway, so I couldn't get hold of them. And then the issue that's on Little Bear that is being taken care of, so he's agreed to stop and waiting for all the state permits.
No, my editorial comment is, you have a magic wand and have got things without really being adversarial. So my compliments to you, sir, and I trust your judgment. You had something?
Yeah, I think it slipped my mind. I'll catch up with Jack when I need to.
Okay.
Well, and if, I'll make a comment, and that is that part of dealing with this stuff is when you see it, and you're good about this, you're making contact with the owner about something that's not in compliance, and
Right.
a lot of the time, they go ahead and take care of it. If they don't, then then we just go down the road. But we know from the past that if there's an issue and we just ignore it and hope it'll go away, it doesn't go away, it gets worse.
Yeah, I usually try to contact them first and find out what the situation is, and then they'll usually say, yeah, I'll take care of it, and I follow it up with a letter.
I know you had a guy down in the Narrows that had a bunch of junk trunks in his yard.
Yeah.
Those are gone.
Those are gone, yeah. Those
We had
Shirley Way, there was one.
I was right in the file last week that somebody didn't get a building permit at all. Did they straighten that out?
Yeah, they're being straightened out, yeah, they're new to the town and didn't know what you had to do, and it's state permits and all that involved, so they're
Where
on
did they come from?
Massachusetts.
They don't have building permits in Massachusetts?
They do,
Yes.
but they were doing a lot of groundwork as well, and being in the lake, it's different rules, and
Yeah.
they're on board now.
Great.
Okay,
Good enough. Thank you.
Thanks, Jack.
thanks for playing.
Be safe. Clay, thank you for waiting. How are you?
Good, how's it going?
Great.
Get that $5 I gave you? Do you need $5? I'm paying for votes. I got a couple more drives.
Oh, so you running for something?
I'm running from something.
I did the itinerant, so you could refer to both packages at the same time.
Cool.
In the stapled package will give you the specific, movement for the month. month on the first two pages, and then the third page is the monthly totals. And you can follow through on page 2 if you want, through the first section of the itinerary. Monthly totals for July: 14 compactors, 17 CD containers, and 4 plastic containers. We had one 30-yard steel tin cans container moved. I don't have the prices of that yet, or the tonnage. Move that through NRA. We had 2 trailer loads of scrap metal, 11.06 tons, $247 in revenue. 2 loads of brush, $1,000. 6 boxes of fluorescent bulbs, cost $122. Electronic container swapped out, $1,275, 6 tons. And we shipped out 2 boxes of rechargeable batteries to Call to Recycle, which is free for us. The revenues through July, the end of July, are approximately $35,221. Same time last year was $65,000. So we're staying right at the $30,000 difference mark. And that's mostly CD, and this is the second year of stickers.
You're 50% down on your CMD.
Correct. Well, yeah. There's a month lag, and that's in the
I see though you're catching up.
Well, we're running about the same as right now, the same as what we did last year.
For the month.
The rate of movement wise. So I think you're gonna see that 30,000 lag all the way through the year to the end, but you'll have 30,000 more in savings off the CD line. So, we are running a little bit over on the budget for labor costs. That's because we've had increased demanding a little bit for the pandemic. And we stayed with that, and we'll stay with that through Labor Day, at least, so.
You're replacing somebody.
We are going to do that, and I'll get to that last, if you can hold off on that. So budget-wise, and again, the point you brought up at the last meeting, I'm gonna use the rates from last year, when we start developing next year's budget.
Right.
Last year plus, what we plan for this year, will be the same plus whatever increase there is, like, for waste management, 2.5%.
When do they let you know what their increases are gonna be?
We negotiated that with waste management.
So we already have that.
We already have that. And that's how I put the budget line in every year, is I just add that. If we're substantially over, I'll add a little bit more. If we're substantially under, I'll take a little bit off. But I did start looking at it about a month ago, as we've gotten into the summer months, in comparison to the rate of movements, what we're doing now, since we opened back up, is very similar to what we were doing.
I guess I'd counsel it from my perspective, is if you need a little less, leave the number the same, because we really need to start opening up the dialogue. I keep hearing it, people writing me letters, phone calls about paper recycling. And I understand it's a cost. There's no benefit to it other than
Exactly.
But if that movement continues, we need to have that discussion, have the ability to afford the discussion.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That was moving forward, except how many months, was it 6 months ago?
No,
The second largest potential recycling for paper up in Maine burned.
Right.
And it set them back at least a year.
Yeah, 3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah. That's where the paper primarily was gonna go. There were 5 mills owned by one company?
5 total, one in Canada.
Yeah.
And 4 in the United States.
And the one in Maine that we would be going to was the second largest. But you're absolutely right, we need to be ready a number of months from
The
now.
market hasn't gone, whatever they
Yeah.
do.
And
You have a company that's gonna have a mill that does recycled paper.
Yep.
They're maybe some profit in it.
Yes. Yeah. General items, the new compactor number 1 is in with a new hopper system. It's working great. Again, we closed that out $500 below the CIP cost. The new doors, Jeff Walker put them in the recycling building, did an outstanding job. Plus, he built a split door for the office there.
I wish I'd known, because I took a Dutch door out of my house. You could have had it for free.
He could have recycled it.
He did a great job, and that was on budget. The new baler is now installed, 23 July, was our second and last CIP item. It's, doing great. The first bale was, 1,085 pounds. So, it's doing good.
Came in under budget.
Right. Again, that was $500 in the budget as well.
So you're getting a denser bale, is that what that?
About the same as what we had before from the old International baler, which was our best baler. That produced the best compaction of, the old International baler versus the 2 newer ones. Was always a tighter bale. And this baler, is appearing to do close to that. We had the landfill mowed, Kyle did that.
That's Kyle Joseph.
Kyle Joseph did an excellent job. First time he's done it. Island Day was done. It was done on a Friday, 17 July. For Pier 19, we had 17 boats, which is roughly similar to what we've had in the past. And we filled a 30-yard container. We filled 2 dump trucks, so.
Who does that?
About the same amount of,
Frank.
Tuftonburg Development.
Frank Train.
Right.
Cheetah. Nice job.
Yeah. So it was very successful. Household hazardous waste. Both dates are done, the last Saturday in July and the first Saturday in August through LRPC. The one that I recommended our people go to the most was Effingham. They had it at Effingham Elementary School, and that worked pretty well. There was one discrepancy. I've talked to Dave Jeffers about it, because there is a void in the definition of the difference between latex paint and oil-based paint. If you get acrylic paint, some of the acrylic paint is chemical-based.
Mhm.
And if you listen and look online it tells you that needs to go to hazardous waste. And they would not accept acrylic paint at the hazardous waste site. So Dave said they had a discussion about it. They meant to put that in. No, they would not accept acrylic paint, because they know there's a discrepancy in the information out there. But acrylic paint can be disposed of just like latex paint. Which is the correct version for us is you get a bunch of leaves, pour the paint out on the leaves, let it dry, rake the leaves up in a bag, we'll throw them away. The cans, leave the can outside with the top off for 2 or 3 days, let it totally dry out, then bring down and show it to the attendant in the compactor and put the can right in the compactor.
Speedy dry works pretty well too.
Yes, that is not our approved version of getting rid of it, but it works out. The problem with keeping paint in a container, the top level can dry, and then the middle doesn't, and when we compact it. So the correct answer for us, license-wise, is what I think.
Of course, there was a time not too many years ago when transfer stations would take that old latex paint and just paint the walls with it.
Right.
Mix them all together, that's why you have these kind of funky looking buildings.
The only, that basically fills all of the to-do lists for the summer on major items. The only thing is left is the drug take-back day. That's a federally sponsored program. It's all done on the same date. So as soon as we find out, and it's usually in the early fall, as soon as we find out what the status of that's going to be, we'll get that word out to everybody as well.
And just as a reminder to anybody and everybody, both Molten Borough and Wolfboro Police Departments have 24-hour
Drop boxes.
drug drop-off spots. So you
The one in Wolfboro is actually inside the door, and they had the door closed during the pandemic.
Oh.
So, just from experience, my wife tried to turn some stuff in from her mother and couldn't do it. So I don't know what the status of that is back open, but that is exactly right, is the 24-hour drop boxes. The other thing I would say, when I forgot, on household hazardous waste, even though those 2 days are over now, just a reminder to the public, anybody listening and reads the minutes or looks at the video, you can still go to Wolfboro the third Saturday of the month from 8 to noon, but it's pay as you go. And that lasts up through October. So if you have any stuff in the house that you want to get rid of, you can still do that. And as soon as Andy tells me, we'll post on our website what the drug turnback day is, and we'll try to get in the paper. We worked last week and got the new request for bid for the landfill monitoring for the 3-year period of time, and is that finalized? I know. So, and I do want to touch base with Dave, who's down in the Boston area, taking care of his son, to let him know so that he's got sufficient time to put a bid in. And I'd like to thank him for providing the materials and the breakdown for the 3-year timeline on exactly what the requirements would be, so we can compare apples to apples for once versus. And I'm in the process of ordering new stickers for 2021-22.
What color are you getting?
I tried to get light tan, because it's one I haven't seen, but they were unable to do that. So I think it's going to be a maroon color with white letters. They're going to send a draft. And the last order of business is I would like permission to hire Scott. If you got a chance, I turned in that packet to Diane for the background investigation. I'd like to hire Scott in a per diem status, contingent upon successful completion of the background investigation.
And he's replacing someone?
Actually, we have one person that has stepped away, that for numerous reasons, he's gotten more employment days at another place, but also concern about the pandemic. So he's still going to do some work for us in the training area, and he will stay on board for that kind of work. But and then I will get back with you with the specifics for Scott, because he is heavy equipment operator. He's got more qualifications, so
But you're talking about a per diem, right?
yes.
Person that's being replaced.
Yes.
Kind of replaced.
Correct. Correct.
So you can calculate their hours forward and stay
Right.
within the budget.
Right. Well, like I said, the per diem budget's going to be exceeded because we've used.
Your overall budget.
Right. Overall budget will be.
It doesn't involve you, but when is document shredding? Do we know?
I think it's like September 2nd.
Place for your latex paint.
September what?
I don't remember what date exactly, no, did you say?
Right, and that is for the department.
Right. Anything else for Clay?
Yeah, looking forward, and I know this is very preliminary, what are you looking at for capital expenses for 2021? Good items that
No, the only thing thing I'm going to resubmit for, which I think is really important, is, I'd like to get one of those trailer signs. A trailer sign.
Electronic sign.
Like what's in Moultonboro. Every place that has gotten those signs, the involvement in household hazardous waste, the involvement in any function, they're put out and displayed in a prominent place. The involvement of the public has increased dramatically. So signage, you can debate signage all day long. Those signs get your attention. You don't miss those signs. And they're easy if for the majority of the time we keep it on the installation, secured. It's easy to change what you put on the sign. And they can be used for other events, Old Home Days. They can be used for, but and that's like a $15,000 CIP. That's the only thing I think that's necessary. I think in the future, you need to look at compactor 2 realignment, not realignment, redo like we did compactor 1 in the next couple of years.
Will that be under your capital improvement
Or that'll be under capital improvement. That'll again be in the $23,000 to $25,000 range. A new backhoe. The standard is to look at 15 years in heavy, machinery. We bought that backhoe. It was 7, 8 years old when we bought it. It's now 18 years old. So, in the future, I look at those two things, and the other area I would look closely at is compactor space, and what kind of alternatives there are to prevent us from exceeding compactor space, especially on the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I have an item for you.
Okay.
Since the reopening of the transfer station, I've seen an increase in the number of customers each time that I'm there. My compliments to you and your staff for your combined efforts. In past conversations with you, you were always concerned about the efficiency and the safety of the site. You quietly remind people that this is still an industrial site with a lot of moving equipment, trucks backing up, etc. I recently spoke to you about individuals lingering at the scrap metal pile. You mentioned your concern about injury. You had one earlier. Other neighboring towns have also experienced some injuries related to dump picking around their metal piles. What are your thoughts about some signage or other efforts at that scrap metal pile, and what can the Board of Selectmen do to assist you?
I'd have to think about it for a little while to give
Didn't mean to
a full
surprise you.
response. We put new signage up for the scrap metal and scrap metal with Freon associated stuff. And I'm torn between, it is really nice for people to be able to pick something out that they can use, and it doesn't go into the waste or recyclable stream. If it's going to be reused, that's one thing. If you have somebody coming down to try to just pick out the heavy metals and take it to the metal yard, that's a no-no. Obviously, the correct way to do it would be if you see something, which is what I've tried to promote. If you see something you want, come up and ask one of us. We'll go down with a machine and we'll get it out of the pile with a machine, and you can
Reduces the risk.
reuse it. Yeah, absolutely. So I'd have to think about it a little more.
Sure.
I've also thought of trying to put, if you stop any picking, then you need to have some kind of security fencing around the area. Again, that's gonna become an area that will have to be manned. You got all kinds of options. I'd have to look at closer, because we could put up, some cameras as well.
I will say, in a related thing, with your current staffing, it allows you to have, for example, someone at the,
Well, that's
up there 100% of the time,
correct.
and it is working.
Yes.
Please don't stop it.
Yeah.
The other thing is, you also have some per diem people that are helping
Oh, absolutely. They're
down with the recycling, and I've noticed that, you know, it's not the cat cans in with aluminum, and
right.
obviously you get top dollar on the recycling and whatnot like that, and it's, they're keeping their distance, and when they wear their masks, it encourages the people to leave and not talk, so that's a compliment, please,
Yeah.
please continue.
And just to put a public policy face on that metal pile issue, when somebody goes in and picks the metal pile for copper, that's benefiting one individual.
Correct.
We sell the metal to a scrapper, it benefits the whole town.
Correct.
So that's the fundamental difference here.
Right.
And as far as I'm concerned, you should, I'd be happy.
Yeah, I find very few people that are going and doing that, because most people that are throwing the stuff away don't throw the copper. You know, the stuff that, and the price of scrap metal is down so far, it's not economically cost effective, if you will, to come in, unless you try to grab 4 or 5 air conditioner units, you know, or dehumidifiers. And in my 9-10 years, almost 10 years now, I've only had that happen once, and I went to stop from doing that. And they were taking specifically dehumidifiers, and I said no. So the other end of the spectrum is we're trying to keep the swap shop as clean as we can with stuff. So the policy has kind of been, if you have a bicycle, if you have something like that is metal, that does not meet the approval to leave at the swap shop, take it down by the metal pile, leave it by the one cement block metal, leave them up on the side. If somebody wants it, they can take it. So, you know, it accomplishes both ends of the spectrum, but we have to come up with some kind of,
It's a work in progress.
Clay, I support your thought that reusing or repurposing is a good thing.
Right.
And you know, if there's no further purpose to it, then we'll recycle it. But somehow getting people into being engaged with somebody that works there, so that whatever it is that they want to reuse or repurpose out of there, they get safely and in a manner that that isn't confused or
and most people do that, especially if it's an item like you know, if it's a heavy item, like a riding lawnmower. Some guy's got the same one at home and he wants to take that one for the spare parts. You know, fine, we'll pull it out, and that's, it's easier for him to come up and say, hey, can you pull this out, because then he's got help getting it in his truck. You know, it's frustrating, but it's only on a rare occasion. It's the same people that you're telling over and over, don't go in the pile, don't climb up on the container. You know, it's safety issues and insurance issues and liability issues. So
There's a middle ground.
okay.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
Do we want to stand up and take a break, or go right in?
Do I have permission to go ahead and hire this individual?
I have no issue with that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Then you'll figure out.
And I'll give you the specifics
Thank you for your efforts and be safe. Do you want to take a break or go right into the red file for signature?
I'm ready. I keep going. Yep.
Okay, we're now doing signature. This is, from Donna Lane, the,
Grant administrator.
Grant.
Yep.
What it does is, this needs signatures of individuals authorized to sign claims, and it's the three of us. And the bottom line needs to be signed by myself.
Okay, so,
Folks read it?
yep, I
Go ahead.
did, yep. So I move that we.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. We're moving to the green file for signatures. For correspondence, cable TV franchise information center we had. Next is a copy from Steve Wingate, reference, the meeting tonight at 6:30. With the RIB from Wolfboro with the map. Can I take this and then return it to you tomorrow? Folks have seen that.
Yep.
Seth Castle's, for Camp Belknap discussion has been changed to 9:14. Welland Road, you've spoken with Randy Walker about issues that he had. Anything to summarize, or? Okay, you spoke with Randy and was able to answer his questions. In summary, I told him that a betterment tax has been discussed by the board, but no decisions have been made yet. Tyler Phillips, reference Union Wharf update. Sounds like a plan, thank you. This was that he was leaving Tuftonboro. Oops. This is your comment, right? Okay. Wanted to let you know the board has responded to DES and is extending the sheet pile repair approach. Renee Pelletier requested a copy of the report prior to the meeting. We'll hear back from them soon. Any further discussion? A second. This is reference Libby Park. Dear Selectmen, I spoke with Steve Wingate regarding this, and he believes that this survey shows the boundary line well. He believes that the neighbor has piled wood on the line and cuts over to access his yard, as well as he utilizes the land as a driveway to his garage. After speaking with him, I found the 2006 boundary line adjustment also attached.
The boundary line adjustment he's talking about is at the other end of the property.
That's right, but that survey shows that there are two monuments at that end.
Three, actually, yeah.
Yeah.
There's one at the lake,
So-
one at the road, and one at the.
Right. So it should be relatively easy to establish.
Yeah, we shouldn't have to,
Shouldn't have to get a surveyor to come in there if they're there, right?
and that was in 2006, I think I saw the date
Yep.
on that plan.
Yep.
And our efforts are that he not block,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Right.
he has to stop utilizing the land.
Yep. Well, maybe,
Should we put Jack on that, or Andy?
or Steve Wingate is, familiar with it. If we can, if we can find and flag the monuments,
Yeah.
then we can initiate correspondence with the guy and say, okay, so we can see from where it is that you're over the line. Let's get it taken care of. Yeah.
That sounds good.
correspondence from the McWhorters, reference, Camp Belknap.
Yeah, and The only thing that case establishes is that, borders have standing.
Right.
It doesn't,
The win was not.
it's not a ruling in his favor on the merits. It's
No,
just that he has standing.
other than the action can go forward to, a hearing.
Right.
Right. So,
I don't know that.
and when I expressed my, unfamiliarity with it, I wasn't thinking, I mean, I remember this particular decision, and that's not what I thought he was referring to, so. There are some inaccuracies that he presented in there, but that's,
They will come out at the hearing.
well, they were in the decision, so apparently they weren't, effectively rebutted in the.
Well, I don't know that, I don't know that his position in full in front of the planning board, for instance, has anything to do with
Right.
that particular decision.
Right.
Next is, the Tufton Borough CDBG administrative agreement, okay to give to Rick to review.
Yeah.
Okay. From Jill Cromwell, please add to the selectmen's agenda, setting 9/9 as the date that capital improvement projects are due to the CIP committee. Can you send those notices out?
Sure, I just wanted to check with you folks.
I don't have a problem with that. There's a letter from Dawn.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't put it up, but I actually just remembered Jill's actually gonna approach each department, and she has a pre-written email.
Sure. And if we have some from the Board of Selectmen, we need to do the same. This is from Dawn and Kristen Taylor, reference Melvin Wharf and Beach. I think you people have all read the letter.
Yep. So, I guess I'm confused at, the thrust of it is that, when they checked with the police officer, they had said that the beach is open till 10 o'clock. All the beaches in town are open to 10 o'clock, and it's clearly posted down there that it closes at sunset, so I don't know where the disconnect comes.
So it's the police officer misstating the time.
Misunderstood.
You have to restructure all the signs.
No. That's all I'm saying is, right. It's just,
Okay.
Did we copy Andy on that?
I don't think so, but I can.
Oh, yeah.
I'll table it.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness, sorry.
The current propane contract goes through August 15th. We've received prices from Eastern and Pemmy River. This is for the employee prices. Have we received any other correspondence?
I'm sorry,
No.
did I not include the town prices?
No, that's, town prices are in there.
Okay, the
So-
town prices.
Looks like staying with, Eastern makes sense, right?
I agree, yep, and it's $1.310.
Yes.
So they're the low price, they're the current supplier, we don't have any supply issues with them.
Not at all.
So I will move that we, approve an agreement, with Eastern, for the next year at $1.31.
I'll second.
Per gallon.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
You can plug those numbers into our budget.
Yep.
This
Do you have a budget meeting coming up or something?
I'm just so excited.
I can tell.
is it this week or next?
12,
Yeah.
I think is the.
Yes, that's Wednesday. Yeah. Yeah.
This is revisit Dennis's suggestion for an employee event.
So I discussed.
So I will, I think an appreciation event is appropriate. We've done them in the past. We haven't restricted it only to employees, and I'm not in favor of having something strictly for employees. I think if we do an appreciation event, We have a number of people that serve on committees without compensation in the
And
town.
volunteers.
We
Volunteers.
used to go golfing at the club, whatever happened to that?
Sounds good to me.
That's when Chris Coulter was there, and when he moved on,
Yeah, yeah,
he was always very kind.
yeah. So,
Yeah, I'm in agreement, I think anybody that's on a committee,
Sure,
anybody who works for us,
any volunteer.
volunteer firemen, the whole panoply.
right,
If you want to concentrate on just volunteers for that event then?
just volunteers. Volunteers and employees, that's fine. Volunteers and employees, well, so what Dennis has suggested is that he do something at the beach the second week in September, and it's not big enough venue to have the whole group. So I guess I'm suggesting that I don't see that that's gonna work. If we want to do it outdoors, we have plenty of room in Central Park to do it. We could do an outdoor one. Not sure during the daytime if that's the best time to do something to include the volunteers. I know in the past it's been in the evening. It wouldn't hurt to get some feedback from some of the committees about,
Right. Let's put
that.
Dennis in charge of that, so yeah, we're in favor of it.
Go do it.
Here's your budget.
Yep.
We want everybody included.
Yes.
Make it happen.
Okay. Is it okay to ask Rick about the question Dan Barnard had
Yes, absolutely.
about masks?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can give that to Rick. There's a summary of my meeting with Samantha Fifield,
Yep, I saw that. Looks like it was productive.
very productive.
Good.
She's also researching a couple of things for us. This is correspondence from Department of Environmental Services, and it's in response to Mrs. Stacy that sent a letter to Emily Nichols.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any other correspondence?
I thought there was some about, and maybe it was in the permit file, about the crosswalk at 20 Mill Bay, 19 Mill Bay.
I will be happy, I'll give you an update, what I know, and this is just what Matt, mentioned at planning board the other day. The design work has been done, donated, for a crosswalk, and, a number of potential donations, have stepped up to provide funding. So the design is not complete yet, but once it's complete, then the state has to approve it. One thing that Matt mentioned is that the location of the crosswalk to meet the sight lines, unfortunately, isn't right in front of the window. It's closer to the corner because of the way it curves, the road curves going up. So they were gonna look at if there was some way to improve the sight lines a little bit to move it back closer to where people wanna go. Because as we know, oftentimes what happens, even if there's a crosswalk, is somebody's standing here and they wanna go directly across the street. They don't wanna take the extra 10 steps to go over and cross at the crosswalk. So anyway, so it's a work in progress, but I do think it's encouraging that, at this point, no cost to the town involved in the effort. And, the idea, is that there's, maybe enough support that all of the costs of installing it, will be, donated.
There's an ongoing maintenance
There,
issue.
right, and in order to, as I remember, in order to put in a crosswalk, this board has to sign an agreement with the state, that covers the maintenance cost. Do you remember from before what the estimate on annual maintenance was?
I didn't pull that out of my file.
Okay, so anyway, it's not huge, but it's not 50 cents.
Right.
Well, part of the maintenance is making sure the signs are visible, and none of those signs are very visible. I'll address that at another meeting. As you come down from Melvin Village,
No, well, the signs aren't there yet.
No, but the point is, when signs do go up, they have to be visible from approaching vehicles.
Right, so that's,
And I remember that part of the maintenance is every year trimming the brush.
well, but, you know, you got maintenance of the electronics and the battery system. You also have repaint of the crosswalk, and as I recall, this is something that the state does and bills the town for. This is not,
Right.
we contract with somebody, so we don't have any control of what the cost is, but.
Well, they can give us an estimate of what.
Right. But, you know, it's like, let's say $1,500, $2,000 a year, something like that.
I think that's a ballpark.
Not $10,000 a year. Anyway, but all of that stuff, will be identified up front before we, anybody gets into work. So, that's what I know about the crosswalk.
Selectmen's updates. Chip?
As mentioned earlier, there's a budget meeting budget committee meeting on the 12th, which is Wednesday. I've met with, Diane on Friday about health insurance, and I don't know if you remember me mentioning an article I read in Forbes about high deductible with a health savings account and working out a formula where it saves money. The problem with that here in New Hampshire is that there's a limit to the amount of health savings account money we can put aside. And I'll show you the insurance projections that we have, but we can currently keep the plan that we have and probably save $8,000 or $10,000 over last year. We're only looking at saving about $22,000 with a high deductible. When you pump up the health savings accounts to accommodate for the high deductible, the savings on that end is only about $8,000. So I'm wondering whether having no appreciable difference, it's worth the effort and the confusion to go through that process. And I might be grumpy grandpa at the budget committee and just say, look, this is what we're presenting. If you want to change something, change it. Go research it, figure it out. I mean, I did an awful lot of effort last year to have them move the goalpost a couple of times on me, because it really fundamentally, and I'm going to continue to say it whether they disagree with me or not, it is a moral issue with 2 or 3 of the members. It's not a financial issue. So it doesn't matter how much money I save them. If I could save them $30,000 over last year, but the plan remains the same, it's not good enough.
Correct.
And I'm not ready to.
Yeah, it's a philosophical issue with.
Yeah, I'm not ready to enter into that argument. I mean, I look at the numbers, I look at the financial end of things.
Well, and as I recall from our conversations before, if we want to engage in that includes direct employee contribution to the cost of the healthcare insurance, then the effect of that is it increases the budget, because in order for that, in my mind, in order for that to work, is you have to adjust the compensation of the individual if you're going to be taking it away.
Yeah. So
you give them that money so that they can pay it,
right.
But that's additional money you're paying out, but you also have to budget all the money for the health insurance costs. So you plus it up.
Your FICA, everything else goes up.
Right.
So it's, yeah, and it's, I mean, I imagine is I can put you in this Porsche 911 for the same price that I can put you in this Ford Escort.
Yeah, but the Escort's a Ford. Give me that Ford.
No. I don't deserve, or you don't deserve to drive a Porsche, even if it's for the same amount of money. I mean, that's the mindset that I battle with sometimes. It's just.
I have a couple of comments. First of all,
I hope they're all watching.
You did yeoman's work, and when they changed the goalposts repeatedly. But what I offended me more than anything else, and I kept my mouth shut, is when you and Clay were called criminals.
I don't remember being called a.
The issue was that Clay gets a $5,000 stipend instead of a $25,000 health care.
Right.
And when that comment was made, and I counted the heads that nodded, and the chairman allowed that comment to stand, that's more than hyperbole, and, it was inappropriate.
That particular, and I just have to, when I was in business and we offered health care, if you didn't take the health care, you better have health care from somewhere else.
Yes.
Because I required my employees to have health care, but I didn't give them any money.
Correct.
And that agreement to give $5,000 was made by a separate
Another
board.
board, yes.
Right.
I'm not really in agreement with it, but it is what it is.
But you don't need to be called a
So the
criminal.
issue is, if we're gonna reopen and address that in a different way, how do we go from where we are to
Right.
that? So,
Right.
right, exactly.
How many battles do we want to fight?
Right, the other two comments I will make is, I sit down, I have time. We've had two employees that for the second year in a row turned down their merit increase. That's 5 figures in savings, and it's a constant savings for as long as they work here.
5 figures? I don't know about that, but at any rate.
Well, if you get several $2,000 or $3,000 raise for 2 years in a row times 2 people, and then you add in FICA, IRS, employment security, all of it, retirement, all of that, it adds up. And the same thing you mentioned about FICA going up if you raise salaries. The other thing is, I think we have 4 other employees that were at the end of their pay raise for the second year, and that's savings again. And the other thing is, and it has nothing to do with me, but I stumbled across it, is read the white paper that Clay got from Barnstead and that consortium about what you save, what you earn, increased recycling goes into benefits. It's an interesting white paper.
Yeah, our insurance rates aren't gonna get set until October. And they may go down because of the pandemic forcing closures. So the
Right.
claim ratio is gonna be a lot lower. In fact, I think I heard on the news that, on the business news, that the medical profession has the largest layoffs of any profession in the country because of that. Because there isn't, people aren't going in to get their teeth cleaned or their eyes fixed or.
And I'm gonna turn the pandemic comment around to a positive and support what you're doing is, we had a very strange year that no one planned on, and it continues to be strange. And the same members of the budget committee that make the comment before they begin, well, our employees are our number one concern, are our number one resource, and then turn around and want to, impact them in the pocketbook, I find disingenuous at best. Well, good luck. Anything else, on the comment? Interrupt me if you think of something.
Bill and I had a short conversation about state money for, the broadband.
Yep.
I did talk to Russ Hilliard about that, and they are have applied for that money actually, so.
Yeah.
I don't know how that breakdown's gonna go, but they're working pretty actively.
Well, needless to say that the pandemic has helped focus in a general way on the value that high-speed internet
Right, the connectivity and the whole thing.
presents in general in society, and a recognition to the deficiencies in the rural areas. And I think it's great that the governor has been able to say, okay, we can use this money that came out of the pandemic from feds, and we can channel it into providing better internet service in our rural areas. So that's good.
Yeah, and it's not just the educational component, it's
No.
the business component.
Well, that's right.
And I've got my nephew-in-law working on Ledge Hill Road on robotics that are in Malaysia, all on the computer. I mean, that sort of activity could be widespread, which would inure to the benefit of the whole town, actually, because we've always been looking for employment opportunities other than putting up a steel plant.
Right.
That's impactful. That's it for me.
Well, think of something else, jump in. What do you have, sir?
I already mentioned the update on the crosswalk. Planning board next week, returns to the site plan review application from Camp Belknap for the new marksmanship range. I don't want to be pessimistic, but I suspect that this will not be the last meeting that we spend dealing with this issue.
And is the Farm Island issue completely out of the planning board now?
Yes. Yep, it's in the courts.
Okay.
Yep, both of them.
And did the planning board make a decision on Farm Island?
Yes. Yes.
vis-a-vis the usage and the septic
Yes.
and all that? Okay.
Yep. The planning board approved the site plan. It was, for the subdivision, we approved the site plan for Camp Belknap for the other side as well. So 2 separate projects.
Okay.
What was a little bit, I cast in a different light, I guess I'd say, with respect to the Camp Belknap project is the application was put in about 8 years in arrears. So they'd been out there using these tent sites without approval.
Right.
And, but
Judge Ignatius addressed that in that thing that McWhirter sent us.
right,
So even though they've been using it for 10 years illegally, doesn't make it legal.
right.
They still have to go through the process.
Right. And I think what Don was saying is because they've been using it illegally, there's no way you can make it legal, which that's not true either.
No.
They did go through, they put in the application and it was approved.
Okay.
And then and that now is, in the legal channel. So. That's all I have.
I spoke to Andy Shigori when he made a comment that the purchasing policy impacted him because the radios are over $10,000, and he has to put it out to bids and all that. And I said, I'd bring this up before the selectmen. I have no problem with the selectmen telling him that we're waiving that particular requirement so we can get that vehicle on the road. It's a safety issue. What are your thoughts?
I'm generally less convinced that there's a problem that exists. When presented with the cruiser problem originally, you can't get a cruiser because there's none available. Well, there's none available in Massachusetts or New Hampshire, but he found one in Ohio, and it didn't, build it whoever. It didn't take that long to get here. I'm less convinced that there's been an effort to put this out. I mean, a $10,000 bid, I'm not ready to waive that. I really am not. He needs to put it out on the street and see who sends him. I mean, if he has to spend more money, that's another question.
Right.
But if he doesn't put it out on the street, he doesn't know. I mean, you may get the same radio equipment from a different dealer somewhere else. I don't know.
Yeah.
But to sit on your hands and do nothing because you're in disagreement with the purchasing policy is not an action.
And I didn't get that sense from Andy at all. What he said is he was going to have to go out to bid because the upbidding was going to be more than the threshold. And as we sat here, I don't think anybody said, "Oh, forget it, just get it done."
Yeah.
So I'm with you on this, Chip. It's not like we're without a vehicle for an officer.
Yeah, and it's kind of it's a slippery slope. If we sort of haphazardly apply the bidding requirement, then how real is it?
So as we look at purchasing a cruiser in the future, all of the things that we're tracking down now, that can all be done before town meeting, before it goes to town vote. So the cost of the equipment, an estimate on the upfitting, you know, the state bid price for the vehicle, if you want to throw in a little bit of money to cover all this other stuff, but then later on, you're not running into this surprise and that surprise. I don't believe it takes any more time to do that research before town meeting and to be able to come prepared so that the day after town meeting, it gets voted in, you issue the order. Buy the vehicle, order the radios, order this, order that.
Yeah.
It shortens the timeline to getting it done. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to wait to get all your information until after the town votes for it. Cruiser's not a controversial item. And I don't remember in the time I've been here, a cruiser ever
And this
being
cruiser,
voted down.
this cruiser passed overwhelmingly.
So,
And I can't speak with certainty, but I have to imagine that every one of those state trooper cars that's out there had to be equipped, the same kind of equipment, which is not provided by the company that does the state bid on the cruisers.
right.
So there had to have been a state bid for the equipment. So use that. I mean, he's not required to send things out for an RFP. If the state's already done that.
Right.
We'll accept the state bid on any of that.
Well, I had a conversation with him, that was pleasant. Now that I listen to what you folks have, how do we nudge the process along? Which is another question, right?
I don't know that we need to nudge, just tell them that's the deal.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, we can vote, we could have a formalized vote on this, but I don't think it would inure to the chairman's benefit if we did that. Because we just heard the two of us are not interested in letting the bid process go away.
Well,
That isn't what I meant by my nudge comment.
Right, no, but if you look at our procurement process, it's written so that if there's some reason that you have to do it and violate it, it's right. So if we gotta do it today and it's over the threshold, but it's gotta happen today, then it can be done and be consistent with the policy.
Circumstances, because I don't think there are any. They're out there patrolling.
I said I would ask.
All right.
I'll move on.
We'll stop beating that dead horse.
Yep. Well, just fine. I reviewed the minutes. Allstate was supposed to have paving done in the very early summer at the least. Where are they?
Allstate.
The paving company. No, we have.
I thought they have some of it.
We have $106,205 worth of project left to do.
My memory from the last conversation we had with the road agent is that the Dame Road work is not gonna get done until the fall, because the window that they had identified, because of the extra work we had to do on Dame Road to get it ready, we couldn't meet that. So that's when we did the work up on North Line Road, but we weren't in a position to do this at that point, so it's gonna be the fall before they get back, get that in the schedule.
My memory of our last meeting with the road agent was that there was gonna be paving done in the fall.
Okay. On that note there, using his information, it's $106,205. And there's $102,000 left in the warrant article, so he needs to ask us to find the money somewhere else.
Or he may
be taking it out of his budget.
Yeah, he may have spent that on the paving part.
Can we ask him to please put the new Sanders out to bid? In the warrant article?
Oh, I thought he said he was gonna do that.
I haven't seen anything, and it's been a month.
All right.
Can you ask Jim about the bid for the new Sanders? Thank you.
Didn't you say he was working with a company that was gonna take the old one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
He had that identified, so I guess the question is, when's it gonna happen? let's not wait till the snow flies to try and,
Well, I'm a little bit concerned is we do work with the vendors, but can they get the stuff? Look what happened at the beach, look what happened at the transfer station.
It's getting better though.
yeah.
The other thing is I look at the schedule and there's some changes going on, and we do not have a meeting scheduled for August 31st, and the next meeting is September 8th, which is 15 days. Should we keep our options open where there's changes coming? And
I think it's inevitable that we're gonna have to meet it on a Friday or maybe Monday morning,
Yeah,
because we have some hiring to do, we have some interviewing to do. And I'd rather have that activity generate, well, the need's gonna generate what we have to do. I mean,
Yep.
we'll figure it out as we move along. I know that, I'm sure that Brother Marcuson's probably gonna take another trip on us, so.
you got it. End of the month, yeah.
It's
You
summer.
guys can meet without me, but,
It's summertime,
we wanna
so there's a
accommodate.
little bit
Yeah.
of that going on. I
Yeah.
think we can, some of the stuff we do, we can kind of push off until after Labor Day, which might be easier, but.
yeah. But
some of
you're absolutely right. The hiring and, the interviewing and hiring, that's something we gotta, and it may be that we're gonna do it someday other than a Monday or a Friday.
Sure.
As it, in
Yeah,
order to
because
get
as
that.
I said before you got here, Grandpa's not gonna put up with no secretary, it just isn't gonna work.
Well, none of us will. That's right. So she doesn't know it, but we got a set of chrome bracelets that we're gonna keep handy. As soon as she gets back from vacation, we'll just,
We'll make sure that school's closed.
yeah, that's right.
okay. Did you remember anything?
No, I've forgotten everything I ever knew.
Any other business?
Oh, I did remember something. We have a request for a non-public, which I think we should have at the town office. I think it would be more convenient,
Sure.
and
Yep.
it wouldn't take,
Yep.
not that particular
No,
one,
no,
but
But the other, yes.
That's right.
So if you wouldn't mind adjourning to there,
For a non-public,
to the non-public, I think that would be.
I think that would be great.
Yep.
Can we do both these things?
Yeah.
That's too early to do that one.
That is the one.
The tax,
I think
the
today
tax,
we were going to.
tax deeding?
We do it on the 14th, right?
That you have it written in
Oh.
here.
all right. Yeah. When is she talking about doing it? Is it this week?
Wasn't the 14th?
The 18th?
The 18th, right. So, oh, okay.
Oh, you don't have a meeting, so, yeah.
Well,
Well,
we
we're,
can have a non-public on that topic,
right,
not finalize the
Right.
decision,
right,
but at least we could get.
yep.
Plus, by being at the town office, we'll have, hopefully, our town tax. will-
Okay.
She's on Mondays.
Maybe,
All right,
So the chair will entertain a motion to go. into-
Hello? Karen,
we already asked for non-public, or public input.
you did not ask for public input at the end of the meeting.
Excuse me,
Karen?
excuse me, we're going on to something else. Is this an emergency?
No, just access me when you're done.
We're going into non-public.
I would like to talk to Karen.
she's here.
Go ahead, sir.
Karen, did you instruct anybody at the table, number one, how to set up the camera and put it on YouTube? And furthermore, somebody at the budget committee also. Have you done that at all?
It's in the works, it's in the plan.
It's in the works.
Thank you very much. That's all I wanted.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So, I think we want to suspend the meeting, is that right?
Yes,
And reconvene across the street, and then we'll go into non-public over there.
that's right.
I move that we suspend and, move location to the town office.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.